Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very much for joining us. My name is Michael Newman. I'm the Chief Executive of the AJR, the Association of Jewish Refugees, and it's my really great pleasure to welcome everybody to this event this afternoon. It's something that we're very excited to be able to bring to you, and we've been overwhelmed by the numbers of people who are interested. This is by far the largest event that we have done in Zoom. So you're all very welcome. And I suspect that for some of you, this will be your first interaction with the AJR. We're particularly delighted to welcome you and also to give you a flavor of the work of the organization. For those of you who are members, you will know that we are a social welfare agency representing and supporting Holocaust refugees and survivors in Britain. But we also provide activities and services for the second and even the third generation, and increasingly members of the subsequent generations are enrolling as members. And if that's something that we hope will appeal to you, then please do make contact with us. And also, if you know of anybody who could benefit from any of our primary services, particularly the social welfare services, at this critical time when people are perhaps feeling greater need. Just before I hand over to colleagues who are going to run the event today, just a couple of housekeeping announcements. As you can see, all the guests are on mute. You will be kept on mute throughout the course of the event, and that's to save on the background noise. There won't be the opportunity to ask questions because of the chat function. We usually have that open, but the event is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel immediately after the event. We also recommend that you use the speaker view option, because that's the best way to see the people speaking on the screens. And if you should become unmuted, then please do mute yourself. Keep yourself muted throughout the event. As well as colleagues who have organized the event today, I also want to thank colleagues at other organizations, particularly World Jewish Relief and the Wiener Holocaust Library, for helping us with some of the logistics in pulling information about the event together. So I hope you all very much enjoy the event. We're looking forward to a fascinating afternoon. And with that, I would like to hand over to Sir Eric Reich, the chairman of the AJR Kindertransport Committee. So Eric, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. It's wonderful to talk to so many people. It's really a great pleasure. However, I know that you all, or most of you, receive unexpected telephone calls during this unusual time, either from your family or from close friends. And I received one very unusual from Sir David Attenborough. Well, that told me this is going to be a very special call. Sir David, I would like to thank you for responding to my letter and for agreeing to come to this particular event and talk about all your involvement or your family's involvement with the Kindertransport. It was terrific. We are all very thrilled to have you with us today. As it happens, this week is the anniversary of the first group coming, the Kindertransport group coming to the UK. They left Berlin on the 1st of December 1938 and arrived the following day in Liverpool Street Station, where if you ever go there, you will see a statue for the Kindertransport made by somebody from the Kindertransport, Frank Meisler. What is so fascinating that since the first group, during 9 months, nearly 10,000 children, unaccompanied, came to this country. It is a project that has never, ever been surpassed. I also would like to use this opportunity to welcome Dame Esther Rantzen. We have met before, but she may not remember me. It doesn't really matter. I'm delighted because she's always had a special attitude towards the Kindertransport. And she will be, and she has agreed, for which I thank her, to converse with all the participants, including my friend, Lord Alf Dubs. Over to you, my dear.
Thank you so much, Eric. Well, of course, it's my pleasure and privilege to take part in this afternoon. And it's a great pleasure for me to be interviewing Sir David Attenborough. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you can actually hear me because I'm in the middle of a forest and my internet is appalling. So, David, I can't actually see you at this moment, but can you hear me?
Very clearly.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, David, this is it must be a very frustrating time for you because I'm sure there are about 8 continents you should be on at this moment, but we're very pleased you're with us. And it's going to be an occasion. I'm used to be talking about the children when we discuss Kindertransport, but on this particular occasion, I think we're going to be celebrating 2 sets of parents. We're going to be celebrating the parents who, with huge courage, decided to allow their children to go into the homes of complete strangers, and to celebrate the parents who opened their homes to these children whom they can't have known and who they must have known very little about. And among those parents, David, were your parents. So I wonder what kind of people they were. Describe them to us.
Well, my father was the head of a little university college in Leicester. He was an Anglo-Saxon scholar by education, but he believed very strongly in provincial universities. And Leicester University was supported by local subscription. The citizens of Leicester simply paid for it themselves. When he went there, when he got there, there were, I think, less than 100 undergraduates. He was the second principal of the but he gradually started to build it up. My mother, who was the daughter of a headmaster close to Derby, was a bit younger than him, and a linguist. She spoke very good Italian and French. She was very active socially. She had organized relief for Basque children from the bombing of Guernica, and Basque children came to this country and she looked after a group of them. My father was the chairman of a group that was concerned with German Jewish academics, and did what he could to bring people out by offering them jobs. I mean, distinguished professors of physics or chemistry or whatever would be offered the job as a lab assistant, as you had to do in order to get that person to come. The British government insisted on that. And then when nearly always, all these people were on their way to relations in America. And while so that there were a number of distinguished scientists who came through University College Leicester with menial jobs for a month or so before moving on. And it was in the course of that he was asked whether, by the chief medical officer of Berlin, whether we could give a host to his 2 daughters who were 13 and 11, who were on their way to their uncle in New York. And the idea was that they would be with us for maybe a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and then they would get on a ship and go off to America, which of course he said yes to. In the event, of course, what actually happened was that the children arrived on the Kindertransport, the last Kindertransport, and 17 days later, I think, war broke out. And so my parents said, well, boys, I have two brothers, Richard, an actor who you knew, and a younger brother, John, who died a few years ago. And she said, my parents, her mother said, well, here the girls, they're going to be your sisters until the war is over.
How did you take to that, you and your brothers?
In a fairly matter-of-fact way, I think. I mean, and actually, having talked to Helga and Irene, their names were, they were 13 and 11. Irene and Helga, Maria. They too were very matter-of-fact about the whole business. I mean, Helga was quite bouncy about it all. It was a big adventure. I think she'd too young to realize the significance of what was happening to her. Irene was much more aware of things and was more profoundly upset by what was happening.
Did they speak English?
Not at all, and we didn't speak German either. But it was extraordinary how quickly they discovered it. I mean, my parents came down. I remember very well when war broke out, and I remember my father. It's moving for me to think about it now, but my dear father and my mother standing by the radio and listening to Chamberlain, to the Prime Minister, saying, "And now we are at war with Germany." And my mother turned to the three of us, because I have a younger brother, and the two Bayachs, and said, "Well, now we are one family. And Irene and Helga will be your sisters now until such time as the war is over."
Extraordinary generosity of spirit.
Well, looking at it now and looking at it from an adult's point of view, I agree. I mean, and the experience, of course, I mean, people say nice things. Jewish people say nice things to me about our hospitality, but of course it was nothing to do with us. I mean, it was my parents, and they said that, and they said, "We are now one family. You now have two sisters, and they will be with us until it's over."
You have reunited with them fairly recently.
I mean, they really were our sisters, as it were, and until they left. And they left 17 days after they arrived, the war started, and they left, I think, 2 years after, so that they were through very sensitive time. I mean, Helga was 11 and was 17 when she left, and Irene was 20 when she left.
They must have very clear memories of your family.
Yes, they both of them married. Irene married actually a research scientist who worked on the atom bomb, in fact. Helga also married a psychiatrist. Irene died quite young, but we kept her. And I used to, whenever I went to New York, I would go and see them. And then Irene died, but Helga, Irene didn't have children, but Helga had several, and we kept in touch with them and are still in touch with them. And they come over here and visit us, and it's a great pleasure to see them.
But of course, their parents died. Their father, I think, died in Auschwitz, was it?
He was murdered in Auschwitz, yes.
Yes.
Their mother had died earlier.
I prefer it the other way.
Okay.
Yes.
Her father was looking after them, but
Yes.
he was killed in Auschwitz, yes.
How much did that tragedy impinge on you and your brothers? How aware were you of the desperate danger?
The British people didn't know about Auschwitz. They didn't know about concentration camps at all until the British Army or the Allies, overran Eastern Germany and Austria, and these dreadful revelations, difficult to speak of, actually.
Absolutely. By coincidence, David, my parents fostered a boy whose father was killed in Auschwitz.
Mm.
So, and he has never spoken of it as an adult. I think this was such a trauma, wasn't it, for the whole generation that was involved in it, that it's very, very difficult to put into words, very difficult.
Yeah, we didn't know. You know, we didn't go to war about concentration camps. I mean, we certainly should have done had we known, but we didn't know. I mean, the atrocity of such a scale and dimension that it was almost unimaginable how appalling it was. Irene and Helga would get letters through the Red Cross from one thing or another, from their fathers saying, "I'm all right," and so on, which of course wasn't the case.
Yes. Now, has this experience made you feel, David, that there is hope for humanity, in that the kind of generosity and kindness that your parents showed is typical of the way humans do respond with compassion? Or has the terrible circumstances of the Holocaust made you a pessimist? And I say that because you have become a modern day prophet. I mean, we all depend upon you for a message either of hope or of despair.
Well, both things are there. Both possibilities are there for human beings. And the fact that the Nazis could have happened, you can't really say it's necessarily entirely German. It's ability. It's something that's within humanity. I mean, the possibility of evil and good are in us all, and how it could have happened. The whole of the Nazi stories should never be forgotten, and because we're all human beings, and the possibilities, those possibilities are there.
Understood. Is it taking it too far to say that you have a very powerful rescue instinct in you, the campaigns that you are waging at the moment to, if I may say so, save the planet, because I believe that's what you are campaigning to do, may be traced back to watching your parents, who had such a strong social welfare instinct in their work, both with adults and children? Do you think you inherited that?
Well, I guess it's in all of us, you know. I mean, who could possibly react otherwise in the face of what we know? How could we not? And I think we all have good intentions. I think I really do. I think they're in all of us, and they can be warped, and they can be suppressed. But in the end, they're the more powerful.
Well, that's a wonderful message of hope. David, I know that you have a hugely busy life and you can only give us 10 minutes, but on behalf of everyone here, thank you so much for telling us about your parents and your sisters. And thank you for that final message of hope. That's very, very good to hang on to. Thank you so much. I'd like to turn to, there is applause, muted applause from round the nation.
Thank you.
There it is.